But let's go into that. That's great, John. If you touch the back of your head now, this approach is about just being awake to what's actually given, rather than what we imagine, I suppose, or think. Now, on present evidence, what colour is that sensation?
Doesn't have a colour.
Doesn't have a colour. And how big is that sensation?
Oh, pretty big.
Depends. Depends how hard you press on.
Oh, if hit it with a hammer, it'd be really big.
So where is it happening? Where? On present evidence, where is it happening?
The sensation
Yeah.
On the back of my head.
in my
In
neurons.
your experience, in my experience, it just happens.
Yeah. I don't find a head in which it's happening. I don't find neurons.
That's true.
Pardon?
That's true.
Yeah.
It could be happening anywhere.
Anyway.
That's good. I like it.
Let me guide us through a little journey here. Just to move from vision to the other senses. And so just take you on a little journey, like telling you a story. Are you ready? Okay, so we call this the single eye. And it's not really an eye. It doesn't have a shape or a color. But one of the experiments to draw our attention to the singleness of it is this. You make two holes with your fingers like glasses, and you can see a dividing line. And when you bring them towards you and put them on, what happens to the dividing line? It disappears. But, yeah. So, in other words, the two become one. True? Yeah. So it's a single eye, we call it. Now if you bring your hands and go around the whole edge, you see that your hands disappear all the way around into nothing, into clarity, into clear light. So I'd like you to notice several things which excite me about this. Is when you look at any object in the view, you can compare it with size to another object. So if you look at me, I'm bigger than the bottle. So my size is in a way relative. Either I'm bigger or smaller or roughly the same size. And anything you look at in the view, you can say, well, that's bigger than that or smaller. Right? Because you can compare it with another thing. Now you look at the whole view. How big is it? Well, there isn't a second eye, single eye, to the right to compare it with, is there? Right? It's the only one in town. Everything within it has something else to compare it with, but the whole is incomparable, they call it. They call it the one. Where is the one? Well, you're looking out of it. There's only one view. Fantastic. Now, when you look at any object within the view, like my body or a chair, you can see it's surrounded by other objects. It's got a boundary and there's something all the way around it. It's got an environment. It's got a background. It's placed against a background, like a picture on a wall. Now when you look at the whole view, is it placed visually against another background? Is there anything around the edge? If you take your hands again to the edge, that's the place I mean. I find nothing around it. Do you find the same? So it's not inside anything bigger, is it? So it's single, just one. I can't say how big it is because there isn't one to the right to compare it with. I can't say what shape it is because it's not set against another background. So now let's just,
Are you talking about the whole perceptual view?
yes,
Okay.
isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, right, okay.
The whole view is kind of hanging in nothing, isn't it? Or we might say it's hanging in consciousness.
Floating world.
This is very different from what we look like from the outside, isn't it? From the outside, you know that for others here, you're a person on a chair in an environment. But from inside, one's not inside anything. So now we are going to explore the same perception with our other senses. And just being aware that this view is single, there isn't another one next to it to compare it with, it doesn't have a background, it's not inside anything, it's free, it's uncontained, it's who we really are, it's who we all really are. And you can't get it wrong, you can't half see this nothingness, can you? Can you? No, no. Everything's in it. Now if you close your eyes, then you no longer see the visual scene. But I find a kind of darkness instead. Do you find that? So I encourage you to use your voice throughout the day. I'll say something about that as well. So, on present evidence, how big is that darkness? Really big. Because I don't find a second darkness to the right or the left. It's true, isn't it?
I don't even find the idea of size applies to it.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yes.
Size doesn't really make sense.
No.
I think it felt bigger than when I was seeing. That's why I was differentiating the two sizes.
You feel bigger than when you were...
It feels bigger in the darkness
Okay.
than when I was sort of trapped by that sort of peripheral blurriness.
Uh-huh. And within the field of darkness, I can identify shapes and dots of light. Do you find something similar?
Yeah.
Yeah? So you can compare the things within it. You say, well, that's a big dot, I suppose. That's a very tiny one. That's kind of moving around for me. But the whole field of darkness I don't find set again in a bigger environment visually. Is that true for you?
Yeah.
Infinite.
That's why it's so calming, because there's nothing to compare it to.
Nothing to compare it to. Yes.
So you kind of give up trying to compare it to something, because
You can't. Oh, it's wonderful, yes.
It's nothing for the grappling hooks of the mind to sort of get a hold on.
Mm. So, the wonderful thing is this is an experience. It's not a matter of understanding or even a feeling. Now, if we pay attention to sounds. So lots of different sounds, beautiful bird song, voices, an airplane. We can distinguish between the sounds. One's human, one isn't human. Some are loud, some are soft. Some we like, some we don't like. But how big is the whole field of sound? Well, I don't find a second field of sound next to it to compare it with. Is that true for you?
Mm.
There's one listening, one field of listening. And I don't find this field of listening, of sounds, set against a bigger background or contained. I can't say how big it is. I'm not even able to say where it is in consciousness. And all these sounds are arising just spontaneously, aren't they, in this nothingness? Was someone going to say something there?
Oh, there's another question, Richard.
Yes.
What is the sound of you?
What is the sound
Of you,
of you?
the listener.
Yes. How would you answer that? Good answer. So now we move our attention to body sensations, the field of body sensation. And you can distinguish between different sensations, and I guess some are pleasant and some are not pleasant, and some are a bit to the left, I suppose, and some to the right. How big is the whole field of sensation? Well, again, I don't find a second one to compare it with. There's only one field of sensing. And I don't find it contained inside something else. We identify with our body sensations. So when we say how big is the field of sensation, we're saying how big am I? Do I have a boundary? Am I contained inside something else? No. Are these body sensations central in a box, separate from the sounds? I don't find they are.
No.
No. Now we move our attention to thoughts and feelings. And be aware of your thoughts, and they're changing, and you can imagine, count slowly to 5 and imagine the numbers. There's a kind of thought, a mental object. And then imagine a blue circle. There's another mental object, as they say. Or remember the face of a friend. So you can distinguish between different thoughts, different images. But how big is the whole field of thinking, of imagining? I don't find a second field of thinking to compare it with. And I don't find these thoughts contained inside anything. And the same with feelings, reactions. Different reactions I'm aware of, different feelings. How big is the whole field of reaction, feelings? I don't find a second one. And actually I can't find any way of separating my thoughts and feelings from the bird song, from sensations. They're not happening in separate boxes. They're all happening in this one consciousness. Consciousness is a word. It makes it sound like a thing. It's not. So as you're listening now, isn't my voice, so to speak, inside you? And the bird song? No less than your sensations. Is that true? Okay, so let's open our eyes.
I like that. I'm totally not visual person. So sometimes, so space, like it was so hard to find this place today. You know, I emailed Sam and it just keeps appearing for me out of nowhere all the time. Space. And I can't really get a fix on it. So when we close our eyes, then it's so clear that it's all one field. Because my body sensations come from the same place as the sound. It's because it's not such a flip around for me. It's because space is always coming everywhere. But that's quite strong. It's real clear that my sensations come from the same place as the sound.
It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? You know, growing up, you learn that your sensations are in a body, separate from the world.
And that's really important.
Yes.
Yeah, you sort of have to learn that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But
I was reflecting on that too, because your sensations are about stuff that's quite close to where you're looking out of. Whereas what you see can be a long way away, what you can hear can be a long way away. But what your sensations are coming from where you think your body is, basically. And you map them onto your body. And you have to be able to do that to function. So it's a very strong body map that we have. And I was remembering when I was growing up, I had a growth spurt when I was about 15, and my body map got out of date. I mean, any of the women who've been pregnant will have had this experience, no doubt, that your body map stops being, gets out of adjustment. And I had scabs on my top of my head for that whole year because I was always banging into stuff. So your body map is something that you learn and have to revise. It's not actually given in the experience. It's something that you have to learn. And that's okay, but it's a kind of map. It's not the territory itself. And so much, I think everything we do here with this approach is distinguishing the map from the territory.
Is it a sort of deconstruction?
Well, you don't have to deconstruct it. I don't think, in a way, you deconstruct it because you see that it's a construction. In a way, seeing it's a construction deconstructs it, doesn't it? But it's this, I mean, everything that we do in this approach is about teasing apart what your actual authentic first-person experience is from what you know you're like. which is coming from outside, which is coming from reflections of people and mirrors and things like that. And the sensations one, as you were alluding to, with the sensation, that's one of the most, I found it the most rusted on, so to speak, because it is something that we learn as a matter of great necessity. We've got to know that these, if you've got a hot feeling in the end of your finger, it's your finger and it's hot. You've got to do something about it. You can't afford to be philosophical at that stage. So that experiment of noticing the field of sensations and noticing that it's completely the same as the field of where everything else is happening is very liberating. It's wonderful.
Yeah. And also, I just came from visiting my mother in California, and I kept saying to her, now that you're old, you need to do this, and now that you're old, you do need to do this. And she'd take total offense and say, thanks a lot. I'm not old. And I said, Ma. And when there's no distinction between the two, then you really fight, and you can't take care of the fact that the body's old. This body is not old. No, I'm not doing old. Well, Ma. So then you, in fact, end up in the land of fantasy.
Yes.
And making the distinction actually helps the whole care of the body can age. The body can do whatever the body does. Because the body isn't you.
That's the critical thing. When you see the body isn't you, then you can take it as it comes.
And take care of it. And not pretend you're young and not take care of
You
it.
can
Not
hold the
being
reality
denied.
around it, what's actually real.
And what is
Instead of wanting-
needed
Yeah.
in the body that actually have. Not the one that you think maybe you
Do you
should
think
have.
may want? Do you think maybe she's confused, maybe sort of feeling that she's still mentally and in herself she feels still very young, and her body is sort of a second entity rather than how she actually feels. Maybe she's trying to project that.
It's just what we all do, the level of denial. But when we do that level of denial at her age, it's really bad because she don't take care of her body. Because her body isn't her body.
No.
It's just, I don't know whose body she thinks it is, but it's not her body.
But maybe it's because she's not identified with her body, because, I mean,
No, I think when you're
She
not
should be here.
identified with your body, when you're not identified, you take care. I take care the more I get unidentified. I don't take less care, I take more care. So for me, there is a correlation. I take more care.
Yeah.
I'm not indifferent to my body, and I'm more careful.
I think that's beautiful, yes. Because the headless approach is not, you see you don't have a head. It doesn't mean now you deny your head. You've got both. And as you're saying there, you can in a way, you take care of both. Both. Yeah, you don't have to flip now to having no body and denying you've got a body. Yeah.
It's like the little me, isn't it? That we always say Catherine talks about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and when you locate your agelessness, which is real, your agelessness is real.
Yes.
It's just that you don't get it mixed up with what you look like.
yeah.
Or with the form.
The form. Yeah, exactly.
You can do the comparing thing with age, actually. You look at one thing and you say, well, that's older than that one, right? Or that is younger than that. But how old are you? Well, there isn't another one next to you to compare you with, is there? Which is rather nice.
This work, you don't know that. You rush out and have cosmetic surgery.
Yes. Well, you might still do that, why not?
So.
Yeah,
There's no spiritual cosmetics.
yeah. Well, I think this leads into this experiment.